So on this page, we're doing exactly what we did before, but now instead of having to isolate x and say, oh, out of x plus 1, negative 1 was our 0, notice they just flat out tell us the 0, okay? So they want to know, is 4 0? This is who we're dividing by. We don't need to change its sign at all, okay? 4 will be on the shelf, okay? But it's the same thing. We're going to divide by 4, and if he goes into the polynomial with no remainder, that means 4 is a 0. So that means the term x minus 4 would be a factor. If you get anything other than 0 for the remainder, it's not a 0, and therefore it's not a factor, okay? So let's go ahead and put 4 up on the shelf. Are we missing? We're not missing anybody, are we? X to the third, x squared, x, negative 6. We're just going to pull their coefficients. 1, negative 6, 11, negative 6. We're going to leave a line to work, and we're going to do our horizontal line across. Bring down your first coefficient so you can get going. Once you bring it down under the line, we're just going to multiply. So 1 times 4 is 4. Then you add these two terms. Negative 6 plus 4 is a negative 2. But once it's below the line, you multiply. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Add that together. 11 plus negative 8 is 3. 4 times 3 is 12. Add that together, and you get 6. So once you do this, like throughout this section, you're doing division, 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 but what they ask you is going to be different things. Do they want the quotient and the remainder? No. They want to know, was the number 4 a 0 of that polynomial? No, I see heads shaking no. Why is it not? Because 6 was our remainder. So we say not a 0. The remainder was not 0. So kind of like what we did before on that last page, we would know x minus 4 is not a factor. We're not crossing this graph at x value of 4. All right? So let's just do the same thing down here. What is that behind our 2? It's an I. Did you ever think you could do division with complex numbers? Key thing to remember with I is that if you ever multiply I by I and you get I squared, what does I squared become? What's I squared become? What number? Negative 1. You might have said that and I just missed it. So kind of keep that in mind, all right? And then when we add numbers, remember you add the real part to the real part and the complex part to the complex part. So keep that in mind. So they want us to divide by this. So we're going to divide by this. So negative 2i is going to be on the shelf. All right? So then again, let's look at our polynomial, x to the third, x squared, x, we're not missing anybody, right? So we're going to, this is one where you want to kind of leave a little bit of a gap because we're going to have complex numbers that we're dealing with. So kind of space them out a little bit. So like 1, negative 4, 4, negative 16, just so it's not too cramped. All right. We're going to do the same thing. Just keep in mind that complex numbers are going to start forming, all right? So bring down your first guy, 1. What is 1 times a negative 2i? No trick there. Negative 2i. When you go to add these two, can you add them? No, they're not like terms. So you're going to have a real number part, negative 4, and the complex part behind it, negative 2i. So we have negative 4 minus 2i, like that. But once he's brought down below the line, we're going to multiply. And it kind of goes back to like our long division on the front, guys. When we multiply, you're going to multiply both parts by that negative 2i. Okay? So negative 2i times the negative 4 will get you what? Negative times the negative will be positive, and then 8i, right? So that will be 8i. What's a negative times a negative? Positive 4. I squared, though. And what does I squared make that 4? A negative 4, right? It's a lot to keep in mind there. I'm going to show you again how we can do this on your calculator, just because I think that's a nice check, all right? When we add these two together, we can only add the real values together. So who can we add together? The 4 and the negative 4. Do you agree that they cancel? So that will just leave you with a positive 8i. And then when you take 8i times a negative 2i, well, initially you get negative 16i squared, but what's the I squared going to do to the negative 16? Turn it to a positive 16. And look what happened. It's 0. So what does that mean for negative 2i? Yeah, right, whatever it's asking, but in this case it's asking a 0. So negative 2i is a 0. And again, that's because our remainder was 0. Keep in mind, I'm just going to make a note for you guys, I squared equals negative 1, and that's how we were able to do a lot of that. Do you guys remember how to do it in your calculator? Do you want me to show you, or do you remember?
You can show me.
Okay, let me show you real quick, because it's just kind of something, it's nice to be able to verify it, just like, am I even doing this right? So, on your calculator, the main thing is when you have this complex number that you want to multiply by, you need them all in parentheses, okay? So I agree, I assume you guys are okay here. Bring the 1 down, 1 times negative 2i is a negative 2i. These are not like terms, so you're left with this, right? So from here on out, let's double check it. So the first thing, assuming you have your calculator, is when you hit, I think it's mode, we want to make sure that we're down into the complex part. So I want to make sure you hit mode, go to the a plus bi, and hit enter. Okay? So make sure you're in the complex part, because otherwise it's going to be like, I don't know what these i's are. So I'm going to hit second mode to get out of it, to quit. Maybe not. Okay, I hit clear to get out. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to take negative 2, and then guys, I is located right above your decimal, but it's the second button we have to hit first. So we're going to hit second I, and there he is. Is that okay for negative 2i? And then in parentheses, this entire thing needs to be in parentheses. So we'll do negative 4 minus 2i, making note that the number, the value in front of the 4 is the negative symbol, but the value in front of the 2i is the minus. Hit enter. Look what you get, negative 4 plus 8i. And that's what we had. We just had it flip-flopped, right? That's okay. So you would write that up here. And if you want, you can just go ahead and put plus 4, because that's what we're doing. And notice 8i comes from that. And then what do we want to do to 8i? We want to multiply that by a negative 2i. So I'm not even retyping. I'm just putting times or plus. And you should get a positive 16. So everything matches. Okay? So once you kind of type the first one in, you can kind of just hit times or plus from there, and you don't have to retype it every time.